Hi friends, it's Christiane with the Science Jam. Hope you're all doing well today. Sorry for the slight delay. Had to get things arranged camera-wise so that we could see all of our experiments. But today we are doing the science of soda. So we're gonna start out, hopefully you were able to gather your supplies with a pitcher of water. So I have a pitcher of water here. Nothing special about the water, I just filled it up at the sink. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our cans of diet soda and regular soda. So what makes diet soda and regular soda different? If you look at the back and we read the ingredients, we have carbonated water, caramel color is the two ingredients on this one, and on this one we have water, carbonated water, and high fructose corn syrup. So it's sugar. That's what makes it regular versus diet soda. So I'm gonna shift this. This might be in front of my face, but you'll still be able to hear me. I'll lean out and talk to you here. But I want you to be able to see is that we're gonna see how these float or sink. Okay, ready? So you wanna make sure when you put them in that you don't trap an air bubble in there. So put them in sideways and then they'll recalibrate like to the way they wanna float. And we can see that this is sticking out a little bit from the water. And then if I drop the Coke in, it goes even lower. So I'm going to try to spin these around so you can see. Okay, well, you can't exactly see in the view in the camera, I realize, but when you do this with a full, this is where science sometimes doesn't always behave like you expect. If you do this with a full-size can of Coke, the Coke will actually sink, so I advise you to try that out. My little mini cans here, the Coke bottle isn't sinking because of actually the little air pocket in there is too big compared to the size of the can. But if we actually, there we go. I'll pick up the camera a little. You can see the Diet Coke is actually sticking out of the water slightly higher. And that's because the Diet Coke does not have the sugar in it like the regular Coke. So if we were to do this with full-size cans, the Diet Coke would be floating and the regular Coke would float to the bottom. If somebody has ever dumped their cooler in their swimming pool, you'll notice that all the regular Coke and regular soda sinks to the bottom and the diet soda floats to the top. And it's all about the sugar. And the sugar actually makes the solution, the Coke or the soda inside the can, denser. So what is density? Density is how much mass, how much stuff we cram into a given space. So we're gonna do our next experiment to talk about density. So what I have here is just a plastic cup so that we're safe. And I'm gonna pull out my cans of Coke because I'm gonna use some, oops, I just dumped water on my lap. That's why we're outside. Today's a little messy. So I'm gonna set my Coke cans aside and I'm gonna pour some water into my cup. So I just have a cup of water here. And now I'm gonna take my egg that we have on our supply list. So what you wanna do with your egg is just drop it in your water and your egg should sink. And that's because can you guys see that? Because your egg is denser than the water. So the egg has more mass in it per space than water itself. But we're gonna be able to change the density of the water. And that's why we have salt. And I think I left my spoon inside, so I'm gonna use my straw, and that's okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to the water. Set my salt aside, get that out of the picture so you can see. So you wanna use your spoon that I put on the supply list, but I'm just gonna use my straw that we're gonna use in our next experiment to stir. So see if we can dissolve. It might be easier, again, oops, see, I just spilled all over myself. It might be easier to pull your egg out and stir your salt water like this. Get it nice and saturated. Let's see, does our egg float or does it still sink? It's still sinking. Let me try a little bit more salt. See if I can pull my egg out this time without covering my lap in water. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard that there's difference that like you can tell an old egg versus a new egg based on whether it floats or not. That's true. And the reason is that eggs actually have a little air pocket in them. And as eggs age, the eggshell is not solid. It has a little bit of permeation, which means things can go through it. And extra air gets inside the egg. Oh, you guys can't see it exactly, but my egg is not exactly on the bottom anymore. It's starting to like rise up a little bit. So I'm gonna try one more thing of salt, and if not, then we're gonna, then my egg is just a little too new and doesn't have enough of an air pocket in it. So what happens is as the egg ages, more air goes inside the egg, and that air pocket grows, and so it's more likely to float. Again, let me show you. There you go, see him? It's floating on top. Okay, so time for, and let me see if I can tilt. Can you guys see him? As I pour liquid in my lap again. He's right there on top of the cup. Okay, so for our third experiment before we have our grand finale of fun, is we are going to, I'm going to try to adjust you down slightly. There we go. We are going to take our clear soda. I chose ginger ale, and we're going to talk about the bubbles that are in ginger ale and so all soda. So I'm going to pour just, we see all those bubbles forming. I'm going to wait for this to settle out just a little bit. So you get bubbles that form. I'm going to tilt this actually, and what we want to do is we want to pour it down the side to try to get less. We want to leave as much of the carbonation in the soda as possible. Okay, so there we go. So what happens sometimes whenever we put our straw in? Do you see all those bubbles forming on the straw? And my straw starts to like float out because of all the carbonation. So we get a little bit of bubbles on the straw. And what that is that the straw serves as what we call a nucleation site. It's a place for the bubble to form. And so the bubbles want to form on the straw, but the straw is actually a pretty smooth surface. So if instead of a straw, we try a pipe cleaner, look what's gonna happen. Almost instantly, the pipe cleaner is covered in bubbles, and that's because it has more surface area for the bubbles to form on. So it took a while for the straw to get covered in bubbles, but the pipe cleaner is covered in bubbles almost instantly, and because it has a greater amount of surface area for those bubbles to form and nucleate on. So our grand finale experiment today is we are going to do the classic Diet Coke and Mentos experiment. And so Diet Coke, any soda will work. If you were not able to find Diet Coke, but you have a 2 liter of a different soda, it will work. It just doesn't shoot quite up as high. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take, oh, I have a wasp visiting my ginger ale. I'm gonna set my ginger ale here on the back of the table. We have our piece of paper that we got, and what I want you to do is you're gonna roll this into a tube. You want it to be about yay tight. You can check to see how tight you want to make it by taking your Diet Coke, and you want to be able to slide it. You want it to be pretty tight around the lid, but you want it to be able to slide on to the lid. So that's mine right there. Whoops, there. And I'm now going to take my masking tape and I'm going to tape it. Nothing fancy, just tape it there in the middle. Now here's kind of a part that you need to do some measuring. So we're gonna slide this over so that it slides onto the over the cap, and you want to find where the top of the cap is. So my top of the cap is right here, so I'm gonna try to tear it, or if you have scissors, you can use scissors to cut it, but I'm just gonna tear mine below my tape but above my lid. So pull that off, set your Diet Coke aside, and just, you don't want to tear it all the way across, but almost all the way across, okay? So you kind of have a hole. You could make like a talking puppet with it. You want to tape the ends together below where you tore it also. Okay. Oh no! Hey guys!
Uh-oh, hold on.
I blew over. My camera set back up again. Okay, can you guys still see me? Am I back now? I think so. I think I have some friends watching, at least one person. If you're watching and you can say that you see me, it would be great. Okay, I think I have two people watching. Okay. So we have got a big gust of wind there, but we have our tube, and it fits over our Diet Coke. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go out, and you wanna take a note card. Sorry, that's why we tore it, is that your note card is going to slide in to your hole, and you want it to be able to block off a majority such that if you look in it, you can't see through. If you see a little crack, that's okay, but you don't want your candy to fall through the crack, okay? So I'm gonna take my Diet Coke out there and I'm gonna unscrew it. I'm gonna yell the instructions and hopefully you guys can still hear me. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to unscrew the top. I'm going to take my tape and my tube, with this inserted in there, and I'm going to tape this. I'm going to remove the lid. Then I'm going to put this on there, tape it down so that it stays in place over the lid. So let me just kind of show you. You want to slide it in like this, and then you're going to put strips of tape around the edge to hold it down in place and slide your card in here, okay? And then, but that's after you take the lid off. I'll shout out the instructions, but just in case you can't hear me as I'm out there in the yard, then we will see what happens, okay? Ready? Here we go. I gotta move my chair out of the way so you guys can see me. And grab my tape. Okay, here we go. I think I'm still, yes, I can see myself in the video. Okay, so like I said, we're going to unscrew our Diet Coke. It's best to use room temperature Diet Coke, so if you're doing this later, take it out of the fridge. You don't want to use cold. It has a better reaction soda that we talked about that we saw on the straw and on the pipe cleaner, and it found all the little sites on the Mentos candy. The Mentos candy actually has a little bit of a wax layer on it that dissolves, and then it has tiny little holes in it. And so the holes in the Mentos allow the carbon dioxide in the soda to form really quickly, and all those bubbles join up and cause a foam, and then we get that geyser of Diet Coke. It's a lot of fun. It's messy. If you get it on yourself, that's why we did it outside, so you can hose off with the garden hose. And I look forward to, hopefully this was a good celebration to the end of the school year. I know a lot of my friends, their last day of school was either today or yesterday. So hope you guys had a great year. I plan on continuing the Science Jam, even though school is out. So hopefully you guys will still want to do science experiments with me on Fridays. But until then, until next Friday, it's Christy Ann signing off for the Science Jam. Hope you guys had a great day. Bye.